Let's speak to Jamie Penrith now, a professional dog trainer. Really nice to have you with us as well. Jamie, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Lovely to be here. Thank you very much for asking me.
Now, how important is it that dogs get some sort of training, presumably when they're quite young? How important is that for them to live, sensible lives and to make it easy for them to be around people and other dogs?
It's absolutely imperative, to be completely honest with you. And I'm not saying that from a dog trainer point of view. I'd say that from a dog owner point of view, or a member of society who's out and about with other people's dogs where they come into contact with them. And I think there is your caller just there is obviously, a very loving first-time dog owner and was explaining her own situation there. But people certainly when they're first-time dog owners or perhaps took on a puppy for the first time during lockdown, people fail really in a lot of circumstances, a lot of instances, to actually recognise and respect the dog for what it is. To actually understand and appreciate the needs of the dog. It isn't simply a companion. It is a living being. It does have species-specific requirements. We have a duty, a moral and a legal obligation to honour those requirements and to also make sure that we are raising a well-socialised, well-rounded, well-trained member of society, because dogs do, as we all know, 13 million plus of them live within a human-populated society in this country. And it's important, as I say, imperative, that the dog is under your control and well-behaved and well-socialised in order to do that safely and effectively.
What are the options for training? Because we're talking about all the costs adding up and people being perhaps caught out if they didn't do their homework. So what are the various options?
There's multiple options. Talking about the costs that you were just saying there, I mean, the PDSA, their research revealed that from a small dog to a large breed dog, you can be looking at anything between £4,500 to £30,000 being the cost for the lifetime of that dog. So when you say, people need to actually budget that, to take that into consideration before they even consider falling for the beautiful eyes that are staring back at you from a potential advert. But in terms of training, to go back there and talking about the socialising of a dog at 1 year old and taking the dog to daycare, etc. That socialisation, if you like, exposure, getting the dog out to see the world, to experience things, is critical, absolutely critical to the development of a well-formed adult dog. And really, that needs to take place within the first 16 weeks of life. It's very difficult. If you've had a dog that perhaps you've picked up and they've been 20 weeks, 30 weeks old when you've taken them on, a lot of what the dog has taken in as its default for its response to life and how it expects things to be and how it's going to respond to things has already embedded itself.
But so can you? Is it impossible to teach an old dog new tricks?
No, you can teach an old dog new tricks, but you cannot necessarily reshape a formed temperament. So your nature,
Yes.
if you have a childhood that involved a lot of deficiency and a lot of isolation and a lot of negative experiences, as an adult, that would come back to haunt you. No matter how much somebody tries to help you out, it would come back to haunt you. So training essentially starts there with exposure and getting the pup out and about, letting it experience life, making nothing of it. A real sort of don't worry about any of this, my friend, it's you and me. And then we're coming on to basic commands. Really, if there are any commands training commands that owners need to focus on teaching their dogs, let's assume that it's a given that you've got a nicely socialised dog. It gets on with other dogs and people. You want the dog to come back when called. That's critical. It gets the dog and other animals out of danger. So he's got to be able to come back when called. He's got to walk nicely on the lead. You need to give me what you've got in your mouth. You need to remain stationary when I ask you to. And essentially, a lot of other behaviours are, giving me paw, rolling over, laying down, going between my legs, etc. Yes, they're fun, but are they essential to actually developing a well-mannered member of society? Not really. So I would say to people to put their focus on encouraging the dog to come back when they call. If they struggle with that's an area that they'd need to get or would benefit from getting assistance with a trainer who's able to actually demonstrate efficiency and proficiency in that area, as opposed to simply, telling someone what's been read in a book, etc. But you want to seek out a trainer who is capable of showing you, shows you something where you think, I like it, the dogs seem responsive, the trainer seems like we'd be able to get on, etc., because you're going to work together.
That's brilliant advice. Jamie, thank you. Great to have you in the mix as well. Such excellent advice from Jamie Penrith, a professional dog trainer. Phone lines wide open.